All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. If you're watching us live on Facebook, whatever time you're watching us, hello. So nice to have you observe this conversation and get to know a little bit more about the Nonprofit Partnership special guest today. So I am Carolina Quesada, and I am with the Nonprofit Partnership and welcoming you to another interview in our series that we call Our Stories, Our Time. In this series, we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through these current times. You know, we started just over 2 years ago when the pandemic broke out, and we've just learned so much about where organizations are, how leaders have been making shifts throughout this whole time and navigating through this. And we've so enjoyed all of the stories from the community that we've just decided to keep going. So everyone or anyone who's ever watched any one of our interviews, we very much appreciate your viewership. And we also appreciate the sponsorship of the Port of Long Beach that's really allowed the Nonprofit Partnership to continue to engage in these interviews and share them widely in the community. So I'm really excited to welcome today's guest, Ryan Nuckolls-Rosa, who's the Executive Director of Dramatic Results. Ryan, it is so cool to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you, Carolina. I'm very excited to talk more. You know that I just love what the Nonprofit Partnership does, and this is such a nice opportunity. And I am just constantly like, do you know of TNP? Have you been to their trainings? Connect with them, connect. So this is great. And Dramatic Results, we are all about collaboration. So this is just another wonderful opportunity to kind of work in support of each other.
Oh, this is so cool. And we are going to learn a lot more about that collaboration that Dramatic Results has been participating in and also leading. But I just want to say we didn't pay Ryan. But thank you, Ryan, and thanks for all of your support. I have the privilege of running into you quite often at different events and different community gatherings. So let's get to know a little bit more about you. Tell us more about your background and how you really came into the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, so I am from Asheville, North Carolina. I've been in the kind of California area for the last 6 or 7 years. So my background's actually in contemporary art. I was working with museums and galleries, but doing public programs in community spaces. So those artist talks that you get to go to at a museum, opportunities for, young children and students to go and, do hands-on work. I was doing a lot of that. But my perception of that was really working in those white box spaces. They're often intimidating. They're not very approachable. I think it took me even a long time to feel comfortable in those spaces. The museums tend to be in a specific part of town that's inaccessible and folks aren't comfortable, even when it's a free space. And LA County is just rich with art spaces. So, when I moved to the kind of LA area, I was interested in kind of bridging that gap between these wonderful community spaces and arts education that was happening directly in schools. So I very thankfully, very luckily came upon Dramatic Results. So I started working there as the operations director, and I don't know when they'll be rid of me because it is just such an amazing space to work in. Previously, I was living abroad in China. So a lot of my public work and, kind of programming in the community has been, from a Chinese context, but again, working in that contemporary art field. And my job has always been to work with artists and help them translate the good work that they're doing. So it is approachable and there's language that's prescribed to it. So I continue to do that in my work at Dramatic Results. All of our team are just brilliant. They're artists, they're creatives, and I am an operations person. So I am able to help them kind of formalize, build systems so that they can reach more students and have a positive impact. So,
wow, how wonderful that you really are still able to harness that love and that deep interest and that curiosity in the arts that you've had for a very long time. And you're still contributing to that sector, to this world, maybe by way of a different role than you've had previously, but still very much making an impact. And I'm so glad you touched on your experience internationally, because that's certainly when I got a chance to know you some time ago. That was one of the things that really stuck with me. I'm like, wow, Ryan's had quite a bit of experience internationally, and how wonderful that we have you in our local community, but also that Dramatic Results has you in that perspective as well. And yes, hooray for operations folks.
Right?
Yes, we need a perfect mix of different perspectives and skills and functions to really help drive a lot of this wonderful programming in our community. So let's talk a little bit about Dramatic Results and how Dramatic Results got started.
Yeah, so Dramatic Results has been around since 1992. And I think that, the thing that has stayed true for our organization over the decades is that, we love working directly with schools, primarily Title I schools and students of the global majority, helping fill the gap in resources that might not exist. We adamantly believe that classroom teachers are tasked with the impossible. They are asked to do so much, and the world is rapidly changing now. I mean, in post-pandemic technology, everything is different. Right. And to expect a classroom teacher and, to exist in this silo and to be able to meet the needs of all of these diverse little humans that are in their space, it's a tough ask. And, we see all of our school district partners and principals doing everything they can, from an administrative capacity to also support that. But they've got a big challenge before them. And so, at Dramatic Results, we really believe we can help, to bringing in artists and STEM professionals that kind of bring in an expertise that a classroom teacher might not have, and they don't need to have. They're not chefs or visual artists or theater performers, but if we can help bring those expertise into the classroom and, expose students to different types of careers, different types of ways of expressing themselves, we really believe we're setting them up for, kind of a healthier future. And that is true for our entire community. So Dramatic Results, we really prioritize, supporting our classroom teachers, working collaboratively, as a team. We really think of our schools as partners in this mission to, expose students to more arts integration and different types of expression.
So from the get-go, Dramatic Results had a very intentional focus on impacting that STEM ecosystem. How interesting, right? That, you have a nonprofit organization here with all of the knowledge, expertise, skills around arts education, arts programming with school-age kids. But really a lot of what you do is engage with the educators in the classroom. So that's really interesting. I think Dramatic Results can definitely tell a story from both, kind of directly engaging in the classroom to also looking at that educator's perspective as well. Ryan, when you started your role, you're now executive director, but you started in an operations role. Mm-hmm. What have you seen have been maybe some of the shifts since you initially began with Dramatic Results to where things now, as you look at STEM, as you look at those that you're serving, is there anything that stands out for you as far as some of those shifts?
Yeah, I think something we've really discussed a lot internally and something we're excited to see as a shift, really starting from the Department of Education down, is kind of a approach focusing more on social emotional learning. All of our educators and our staff are trained in trauma-informed practices. And I think, unfortunately, it took some folks a while to come around to the importance of those skill sets and, the kind of approach that focuses on, communication and collaboration for students. It took a pandemic to get people there, but we really see kind of a shift in funding, again, all the way up from the Department of Education level down. And so some of our past federal grants and some of the work that we've done has really focused on, impact and outcomes when it comes to math practices or ELA standards for our students. And of course, that is important. And, we're accustomed to integrating different art forms with STEM subjects. But what we see is that's being asked less and less. When, principals want to bring us in and we're partnering with school district administrators, they want to prioritize the wellness of their students and really give time to the students to acclimate back into this in-person environment and to be supported holistically. And that's always been an important element of our organization. So to see that resonate across, funders as well as, the schools that we're in service of is truly exciting. So you cannot really prioritize the health and wellness enough of educators and students alike. If we don't invest in the educators' needs and pour into them, then they have no chance of turning around and again, working towards this positive impact for students. So we love to see that shift.
Yeah. So give us an idea then today, the kinds of ways that your team is interacting, for example, with the students, and how you're also interacting with the teachers, with the educators.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we do both in class as well as out of school time programs. So for some of our out of school time programs, we've got summer and Saturday workshops. So one of our strategic priorities at Dramatic Results is to expand our STEAM ecosystem model. So we've been working on this, for 6-7 years now through multiple research and dissemination projects. But that project really unites the efforts of nonprofits like ourselves, but also libraries, universities, and school districts. And it gives students, this opportunity out of school time to have enrichment programs that, again, they're getting exposure to different types of educators, pre-service teachers from, the CSU system who we work with, from Long Beach and Dominguez Hills, are getting an opportunity to have hands-on practice with students. And just, kind of unite the efforts of different people so that we can diversify the student experience and really cultivate a fun place for them to be, as well as a challenging environment that will push them to consider what is the 21st century going to look like in a few years. We do not know.
Right. But you're at that forefront where you are seeing the shifts. You're also, to your point earlier, seeing how funding is really trying to acclimate and address some of those important shifts that have happened, that are happening. I think one of the favorite things when one considers Dramatic Results and the kind of programming that you're doing, the model that you have, is that honestly, to know about Dramatic Results, one can't talk about your programs and your impact without also using the word capacity builder. And I think that's just amazing. That's really cool, because you have very direct programming that it does engage young minds in the school, and you're able to collaborate and partner with the school. But again, to just kind of go back to this role of how you're really being very intentional in your work with educators. I'm wondering if you can unpack that a little bit more. And as you're doing that, share also about what kinds of shifts you are seeing in their needs, where maybe things might go. You're uniquely positioned in that way. So I think you have a very, very unique perspective on where the shifts could be.
Yeah, I love your questions. And yeah, you're just sparking so much for me. I'm like, oh, what direction should we go in?
We have some time, so take
I love it. I'm like, I want to talk about storytelling. I want to talk about, yes. So I think, I think as an agency and as a team, we have really come to think of ourselves as designers. We are accustomed to designing educational experiences and environments that enhance the student experience. So, I think thinking of yourself as a designer is a little bit of a shift. It's not kind of a common approach for a lot of educators. I think oftentimes what we see is that, you're working towards an end goal, but oftentimes you're creating something without getting input from your users, and your users being your students, your teachers, every stakeholder in the community that is receiving impact from your efforts. How much have you asked them? Is this what you need? Is this what you want? And have you then tested the design that you're creating with them? We get so invested in this vision that we have for the future. And you kind of get to a certain point where even if you get feedback about something not working or not having the intended impact, you're reticent and hesitant to let it go. So as a designer, you really get accustomed to prototyping and iterating. So if your prototype doesn't work for the community in the way that you want it to, you got to start again. And if you get too invested in a product without being comfortable of starting over, then that can be really tough to do. So we see a lot of our partners that, aren't comfortable with just scrapping a project, saying this didn't work. What do we learn from that? What do we know for our next iteration? So Dramatic Results really prioritizes that designer mindset and, following the design thinking process and really elevating the user experience. So that's true for our internal stakeholders, our staff and our board, as well as for the educator and student experience that we're creating. So, when we talk about arts integration and creating these learning experiences, I don't think we've talked to a partner that doesn't like the idea. I think everyone is excited by this, expanded collaboration and support and intentionality behind the resources and the capacity building you mentioned that we're so focused on.
And, it also goes back to the point you were making earlier around, I think, the pandemic, and you spoke to this too, has really introduced an opportunity for us, all of us, to really look at our work and maybe employ a different approach or a different model or maybe a different paradigm. So what you're describing is design thinking, and we can spend a whole hour long interview just on that alone and gleaning from you and learning from you, but just I think to understand that you're also there to really help introduce this paradigm, and support as educators are understanding, like, how do I put this in practice? What do I do with the feedback? How does this then continue to iterate? So kudos to all of you for that. And like I said, we can spend a lot of time talking about design thinking. Is there anything else that you might want to share from, your perspective, your team's perspectives, as it relates to, some of what they've seen in the classroom, or those changes or those shifts in educators?
Yeah, it's interesting when we kind of work directly with students. And so Dramatic Results, we think of ourselves as a research hub, a research organization, but we also believe in staying true to, kind of being practitioners. If we're not testing our assumptions, and, you can theorize all day about what students want, what they need, what your impact might be. But if you're not testing those assumptions, then it's going to be hard to validate the experiences you're providing. So, it's funny, sometimes we just, again, you get wrapped up in, like, we've designed these beautiful lesson plans and everything.
Yeah.
The STEAM program is checking all of these boxes. And sometimes what we hear from students is that they just want to spend time together. And I think they are so hungry for just hanging out and enjoying. And, a lot of them, particularly that, middle school age past fourth grade, they're needing to practice some of the social skills that they missed out on in a pretty crucial time in their lives. So a lot of times we tell ourselves we need to do less. We need to push less into this lesson plan, less into this curriculum, and simplify, so that the students have an opportunity to turn and talk and engage with each other and just have an opportunity to bond. That's what we hear again and again from them, of, like, they like the program, they like the content, but they like getting to know each other and having those opportunities for bonding. So yeah, my advice might be sometimes just do a little less, open up the space for them to explore and collaborate and talk.
Thank you for elaborating a little bit more on that. And I think this is a good moment to talk about how that collaboration with the school district has really allowed you to continue to, hold down that space as of innovator, right? As not just thought partner, but also like designer or co-designer in a lot of these interventions. So tell us more about, as far as school districts, who you're collaborating with, and how that is generally going and how that's evolved.
Yeah, so some of our primary partners in the Southern California area are, of course, Long Beach Unified. We have worked for years with, Dr. Christopher Lund, and he has been a huge support of the organization through multiple iterations of our federal projects. And without his support and connection to so many different school sites, Brian Moskowitz at the district has also really helped us. Sometimes we approach them and we say, hey, we've got this great program. Who do you want to prioritize us going to? Knowing again that Dramatic Results focuses on working with students of the global majority and Title I sites to help build up the resources that they have. So in this past year, we've also worked with in Lakewood and LAUSD. We've had a long-term partnership with Walnut Valley Unified School District. I cannot say enough about Director Jeanette Coe. She is absolutely amazing. Their district has been prioritizing social emotional learning for years, and it is a core part of what they do in the district. Dramatic Results is very fortunate. In the last 2 years, we have also been replicating our STEAM ecosystem model in Maryland and Wisconsin. So we are now a national organization. So we're quite proud of that. So we have a few out-of-state partners that we're working with in specifically Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and in Calvert County, Maryland. So I'm very excited to see kind of some of the models and work that we're doing taken to a national level. So
wow, congratulations. Congratulations on that. That's a big shift. That's a really big shift. So now as far as collaboration with other organizations locally, and that's huge that you've got connections elsewhere in other, communities and other areas. Locally in Southern California, do you find that you're also able to collaborate with other nonprofit organizations or other organizations? What does that look like generally?
Oh my gosh. I mean, Long Beach, I have lived around the world and I've been very lucky to, I've done exhibitions and public programs in, 15, 20 plus countries, but Long Beach is a special city. It is such a supportive community, and you've never felt a network like you do in Long Beach. I mean, support of local businesses, that interconnectivity. The nonprofit partnership, again, a plug here, they affinity groups, and every affinity group that I've been to, led by their executive director, the ED ones, every time I say, oh, I'm having this issue, there's something that I don't have access to, or I don't know, people are just raising their hands and emailing you immediately and offering resources and support. And I think that's why the nonprofit partnership is so successful, because you have these folks with just huge hearts, brilliant minds, creative aspirations, and they really do unite together to help one another. And it has never for me felt like there was any, services in competition or anything like that. It really is about filling the gap and making introductions. And I love that. I think it's great. And it's really, something that we take to heart and is important within our strategic plan. And, we believe in connecting folks to other experts and are very comfortable saying, we don't know how to do that, but we know who does. So that is something that Dramatic Results really likes to do.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for just all of that. I think, also painting a picture locally of how organizations in different sectors also really look towards each other. I think mostly, to try and find ways to work with each other. So at this point, anyone who's watching might be asking, how do I get a hold of Ryan? Or how can I reach out? Because I kind of have an idea, or I just want to understand a little bit more. Are there things that we can do together? What's the best way to get a hold of you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to message me at ryan@dramaticresults.org. If you're interested in programs or getting in touch with our, kind of general team, you could reach us at admin, ADMIN, @dramaticresults.org. Reach out through our social media channels where we stay active, and you can really see some of that storytelling that you mentioned, Carolina. We believe in, visual and, kind of oral storytelling as a way of communicating the impact we have. So always looking for new partners.
Your website also does a great job of really kind of breaking down the different areas of work that you're doing and what each looks like. So that website, can you share that address?
Yes, it's dramaticresults.org. And results has an S on the end of it, just in case. Yeah.
Great. And to get a hold of you, it's ryan@dramaticresults.org. And that's Ryan with a Y, RYAN. Thanks for that. I always have to ask, how can folks get a hold of you? So before we kind of bring this wonderful conversation to a close, can you share with me, what types of future collaborations, what do you look forward to as far as the ways that Dramatic Results will expand, the kinds of partnerships that I think would be very fruitful in any kind of growth or in the future?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, in this past year, we've really been trying to say no more often, which I know sounds counterintuitive to everything I've just been talking about, but we've really focused on a team of creating quality work over quantity and making sure we find the right partners, meaning that, again, we're great at connecting folks, but we want to make sure that, we're able to deliver on what the people we're working in service of actually need, and that we're, really building on each other's efforts. I think in this coming year, we're focusing on, a bit on expansion, identifying new, funding partners that we could work with. I'd love to see, as I mentioned, Dramatic Results is now working in Wisconsin and Maryland. So we'd love to see some of our programs take it to more rural communities that don't have access to some of the rich resources that a community like Long Beach does. So we're in talks with, school district administrators up in Tulare County, and we're just interested in kind of taking our programs further afield and taking our expertise and coaching and guidance that we've learned and, introducing that to more folks. So I know for me personally, I'm working on stewardship and staying in touch and juggling all of the things, but, you just take it a day at a time. This is
That's
a busy
right. And since you joined Dramatic Results, it's just been a whirlwind of a lot of activities, a lot of growth. As you look back, Ryan, what are you most proud of?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I can't believe it's coming up on 6 years. I mean, we've talked about this before the show started. Like, I love this organization. I think that, it's got such a great heart. Every person I've worked with is just so thoughtful and intentional. I do think as an operations person, I am quite proud of some of the internal systems that I've built that I think allow for more effective backwards planning, really intentional strategic vision. So things that, kind of external parties might not see, but we've got a beautiful organizational budget. Like, we've got a great strategic plan, I think, and quarterly reviews, and our new performance management documents are great. But I do truly believe that an investment in your infrastructure can lead to stronger quality and stronger output of program services. So we kind of laugh internally as a team. We're like, of course, everything we do is in service of students, and we end up talking about the adults and the educators and the folks working at organizations like ours, maybe more than we do the students. But it's, again, just if you invest in the educators, then you will create quality, student programming. So,
and I just want to go back to what you just said. Anyone who lives in the world of metrics and budgets and plans will absolutely commiserate with you in the beauty of those things. And, this is a great point to also affirm really the message you're sending right now, which is structure really matters. Infrastructure for an organization, whether you're looking at operations, you're looking at programming, or even leadership development, all those things really do matter, because you're absolutely right. That's kind of the skeleton behind, whatever's going on out in the community. So thank you so much, Ryan, for just sharing not just your own journey, Dramatic Results, growth over the last several years, but also I think that really, really wise lesson, your wisdom around that very point you just made as well. So as we close, is there anything about where Dramatic Results will be in the next year or so that you'd like to share? Any upcoming goals or events or milestones that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, we're very excited because we've just welcomed a few new team members on board. So you're just going to see kind of an increased social media presence from us. And, we've brought on a grants manager and doing some additional prospect research. So I think we know very well now, what are we good at, and leaning into those skills. So like I mentioned, we've got a few kind of grants on the horizon where we'd like to be taking our programs, kind of to other communities that might not have access. But yeah, if you've got more Long Beach schools that need a partner, just reach out to us, and we're always looking for that kind of partnership opportunity. So we do have our summer STEAM program for rising 6th and 7th graders starting next week. So I think my team is all busy hands-on getting ready for that. But there we partner with the U.S. Sailing Center, and they have been a longtime partner of the organization. We also work with Rediscover Center for that summer program. So, again, uniting the efforts of all of these great folks to bring in and work with about, I think, 48 students is who we'll be working with over the next 2 weeks. So
wow, that's a nice sized cohort of students there. So again, anyone who wishes to learn more about your work, what you're doing, how to get a hold of you, dramaticresults.org is the site to visit. And anyone who would like to connect with Ryan directly, the email is ryan@dramaticresults.org. Ryan, it has been a real pleasure. It always is. Thank you so much for spending time today.
thank you.